Welcome to the Successful Life Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Barrier, and I'm here with Nicole Cochrane. Oh, look at that. You changed your name down there on the Zoom, which I
I
introduced you as
know.
Nicole Faith last time.
That's why. Yeah, that's so funny. Actually, that's so funny. I set up my Zoom again because I got like a updated computer, so it must have reset it. That's funny. There we go.
So we talked to Nicole last time before. I don't remember the exact time. It was a little while before she was going to go to Date with Destiny. And just to kind of recap with you guys, we talked about Nicole in her relationship with her ex boyfriend, who was almost turned fatal, really, at one point.
Yeah.
And so we've got an interesting update with that. So Nicole, tell us all about it.
Yeah. So it's so funny. When I re-listened to the podcast, now listening to it after Date with Destiny, which is that, for anybody that's listening, is the 6-day event that Tony Robbins holds. And I felt when we had the conversation of the first podcast, I did kind of feel healed. I felt like it was done. I had confirmation. But when I went to this event, I started to realize, there were still things underlining. And this is actually, you said this, you were like, there still will be healing that comes up. So the first day, I was not prepared for it. I thought it was going to be like an easy, basic, foundational day of self-limiting beliefs, like what you kind of do at UPW. And it's all about forgiveness. So I sat there like crying on the first night because, you write down, what you want to be forgiven for. And I didn't realize that I was harboring this, I loved my ex so much. He gave me so many gifts, and I wouldn't have stayed if it was all bad. We had beautiful moments. And to watch to watch him kind of leave and lose him from the alcohol, from the addiction to drama, from all of his own demons, it was really, really painful for me. And I constantly felt like I was swimming against the current, walking away from him, knowing that it was the right thing to do, but genuinely, I felt weak in that moment too. I wanted to be with him. I wanted to help him. I wanted to make sure that he was okay, and I couldn't. And when go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it was, so what made me think of it was when you talked about him leaving for the last time, and you had told him to left, and then the next morning you woke up and looked at your phone, and I think you were halfway wanting him to have a message there and halfway not, but were relieved that there was no message. So
yes. And then his mother had called me and said he had shot himself. And I carried that with me, and I carried the fear of him committing suicide with me. I knew that leaving was either going to be the thing that helped him grow later on, or it was going to be the thing that totally destroyed him. And he would show up to my place sobbing and crying and stay there all night drunk at my door, knocking on it. It got crazy. And I just didn't realize how bad I felt. Even though I shouldn't have felt bad, that's what everyone always says, you did the right thing. It was hard for me to decipher and feel like I was always doing the right thing when I was walking away from somebody I loved that was suffering. And anyway, so the forgiveness day, I'm crying. I'm just overwhelmed. I feel incredibly free from this relationship, and I did my very best for him and myself in the moment. Which whatever I did, the best thing for me was inevitably what was going to be best for him anyway. So the second day is what really blew me away. I could have left after this. I was like, I'm done. I got it all now. And I didn't. I, of course, had more moments. But so you go into this deep, deep meditation and trance. And I'm freezing cold because Tony keeps it 40 degrees in there. You know how it is.
yes, I do.
And I'm sitting in the front, so the wind is blowing on me. I can feel the oxygen machine that's blowing in oxygen in the room. And I'm sitting there shivering next to two big dudes. I can feel their shoulders on me. And they're going into the meditation. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not going to get into this. So there's no way. And there are actually like healers that walk around and they bless you and they touch your head, and they don't do it to everyone, but they do it to specific people that they choose. And all of a sudden, somebody comes up and they put their hands on my head and they bless me, and I felt this deep warmth go like through my body, and I just like fell into a meditative state. And I've done this before with Joe Dispenza and stuff, but never a meditation like this. And I actually imagine my childhood dog, who has passed away like a few years ago. Her name's Adobe. And she's this chocolate lab, and she was sitting by my legs. I could feel her. I could smell her. Like, her warmth was keeping me warm. It was unbelievable. I've never experienced anything like this. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I see, I mean, obviously my eyes are closed, but in my brain, I see like black, and I see all of the people I've ever loved in my life. And we had this understanding. It wasn't on the other side. It was almost like our highest selves were talking to each other. And I knew, you were in my life for this reason. You were here for this reason. I learned this from you. Every single person was guided by God's grace into my life. And I see my ex-boyfriend, and he's walking towards me, and he has clear eyes. He's sober. He's the person of all of the potential I ever saw in him, his true highest self. And it gives me the chills. He comes up to me and he puts his hand on my heart and he goes, "Thank you, and I love you anyway." And I put my hand on his heart and I go, "Thank you, and I love you anyway." And we just knew. We had this understanding that we chose each other. For as bad as it was, it brought me to Dallas. It carried me in a way, like everything that ever happened in my life was carried by grace. And then I saw my uncle Mike, who had passed away. I had 3 friends who have passed away, and they're all holding light above me, and they're putting their hands, and they're on the other side. That's what I see in my vision. They're on the other side, and they're saying, "We've been here the whole time." And then I see my parents, and they have a white light around them. And I realize, like, I chose them, and I'm talking to them as all of our highest selves, and we just know. And I'm at this point overwhelmed with gratitude. And to make a point too, right before I went into this meditation, a crew member came up to me, this wonderful girl who I've crewed with a few times. She gave me a necklace, and on the necklace it had a little token that said "grateful." So I realized, like, this whole event was just about gratitude for me. And I get out of this meditation, and I've never felt so grateful in my life. My whole body, like, it was the most intense feeling. And they're obviously playing music. The bass is like shaking my heart. I'm like, I was like having heart palpitations. We're hugging and everything. And when things calm down, I'm sitting there in my seat. I pick up my phone out of my backpack, and I notice that my ex's name pops, or not his name, but his number pops up on my phone, his new number that I had just texted a month ago with the long letter where I haven't talked to him at all. And he never responded it, but he responded during the meditation when I was talking to him in his high self, saying thank you. He texted me and said, "Thank you, truly thank you." Like, what?
Straight up cold chills right now. Like, I don't even know what to say about that.
I was blown away. And, I didn't respond because I was like, I know, like, it's done, and we have this confirmation. And, we went through so much together. I truly look back, and he was, even as bad as it was, he gave me the greatest blessings, and he gave me the gift of compassion and understanding. And I would not change any moment of my entire life now, because it led up to that moment at this event where I had this deep understanding for my purpose and life and the people I'm bringing in. And it was just this very empowering situation with so much synchronicity. I was just blown away, like, truly. And then I looked back on the podcast, and I was reading it, or I was listening to it, and I thought, wow, I was a little bit still hurt in that interview. I still had the good moments. They still were like salt to a wound sometimes. And I missed the beautiful things we shared, because we did have so many good things. We had so much potential, but it wasn't for us in this lifetime. And I understand that now. And that kind of freedom of knowing that our relationships, our experiences, and to let go of the expectation of what we think our reality should be is really freeing and empowering.
Dude, I totally 100%. I have not had those experiences like you just described, but it's interesting. I actually think today I did a story. I think it was today about, to be grateful for. One of the things I talked about was in 2005, I got caught with cocaine, and
Yeah.
in during between 99 and fast forward to 2005, I'd gotten 3 DUIs. And the point is that I wouldn't change a single one of those things, as bad as they were at the time, because I thought this was, especially the cocaine, I was like, this is it. Like, I'm fucked.
You go to prison, like,
Yeah. And by God's grace, I didn't. And I did a post today, and I said, even though, and I was talking about people in addiction and in recovery, that even if you're going through a really, really, really hard time right now, I promise you that you'll get through this, because you'll look back in 5, 10, maybe even 15 years, and you'll realize why you're going through this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that doesn't help people for the immediate time, because if I heard somebody say that in the middle of my mess, I would have been like, fuck him.
I know.
Yeah, his life's all great now. But the fact is all those things made me who I am today. And those things in that relationship are preparing you for a much better relationship.
I know. And I'm so excited for that, because I've been able to show myself a new love for who I am. Because when I first left the relationship, and I said this in the first podcast, I thought I didn't love myself. I thought I was too beaten down, but I proved it right then and there that I did. And I think sometimes when we're in the dark, we think that we're somehow not evolving, but in the dark is where we're built through the grit. Like, we look back on the darkness and we say, that's where we grew. That's where we created who we are today. It's like that quote or whatever, where it says, if you're going to love all the good things about you, you have to love all the bad, because the bad is what made you into who you are. And you don't want to glorify pain, but it's the truth. You become gritty in those times, and it builds character. It builds compassion, love, all of it.
All of it. You're absolutely right. So if you're listening right now and you're going through a dark time, and I'm actually going to go ahead and publish this, I think, tomorrow. But so, and for those of you that I have skipped over to publish this podcast, then just get the hell over it, because this is important. And not that yours is not, but especially this time of year, because people, maybe are not sitting in a house like I am, or you on your deck like you are. They may be sleeping in their car, or they may be, God only knows where. And I pray for those people, because I have never slept in my car as a homeless person, but I can only imagine how that feels. And it can't be a fun place. And if this time of year, if you're in that situation, then just the one thing that has helped me more than anything is to help somebody else when I can't help myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it even redirects the focus. Like, sometimes we don't think we have anything to give, but when we reach out and we do something for someone, when we feel like we have nothing to give, we actually see within that it's all within us. The power we always have. And I can't relate to someone sleeping in their car. I can relate to the other things, but there's always a way. And when we stay in tune with that, when we always keep that hope, even when we feel hopeless, like, we will find the light. And there's always light at the end of the tunnel. There always is. Even when you think that there's not, like, there always is. And it's the resiliency that you find along the way. Even if you drag yourself there, like, you'll get there. Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. And look, all of us have been through a time that we thought was the worst time in our lives, and everybody's bottom is different. Everybody's dark the dark hallway between one door shutting and one closing is always darker than everybody else's if it's your
Mhm.
hallway. And so,
Mhm.
you know, you got to remember that if you're hearing this at this time of year, because this time of year can be tricky for people. It can be a really
Yeah.
hard time. You know, and for people like me, for example, that are recovered from being, you know, an alcoholic and drug addict, like, you know, the holidays at first were really challenging because everybody drinks or gets high or whatever the fuck they do on, you know,
Yeah.
Christmas and Thanksgiving. But I don't, you know, that stuff doesn't bother me anymore,
Yeah.
you know? So, man, I am so glad that you shared this. This was really cool. I mean, literally, I think I had cold chills the whole time you were saying it. That's such a good story and a good follow-up to the previous podcast. So I
Thank you.
really thank you for reaching out so you could tell me the story and then coming back
Yeah.
on and sharing it. I really
Of
appreciate it.
course.
It
Yeah.
will touch someone's life, Nicole. I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad I could share it too, because I was like, oh God, there's so much more now. And that's the thing too, is we're always evolving. There's always another layer of healing. And that's not to discourage you, but to give you some grace. Like, you don't have to be so happy, so perfect, so healed 24/7. You're setting yourself up for failure. Like, let yourself have the moments. Don't stay stuck in it, but just always try and do your best, even if it's you crying on the floor. And I'm like, what do you need? I don't know.
Right. Well, if that's the best you can do at the time, then that's what you should do, because
Yeah.
guess what? Even people that cry like hell, that's a point of
It's
healing.
a release. Yeah.
For sure, especially for men, just all the men that are listening out
Oh,
there,
yes.
you need to fucking cry. Like, you need to have a breakdown, because guess what? One, it feels pretty damn good, and two, you're supposed to. Just because men think that they're not supposed to show that side of them, and that's complete fucking bullshit.
Yeah. And I feel called to say this too. I think some of the issues with men who, or women who end up being physically abusive, verbally abusive, whatever, we don't talk about the healing that they need. We talk about the healing of the victims that they cause the pain to. And I think if we had a little bit more grace and understanding for the fact that people, even if they do the wrong thing in the moment, are doing it to survive, then we can give them a chance to change. But pushing them down and not focusing on the issue and the root problem is just going to keep them abusive. So it's not to let people abuse you. It's not to let people say shit to you. It's not to keep people in your lives that are toxic, but it's to understand that if you have boundaries and you hold steady and you create rules and you say, or you push them away, but do it in a way that you can forgive them at some point so they can go and change their life. That's important. And that's why I never want to say anything bad about my ex. I do just tell the story, but his heart, deep inside, his healing, his highest self, it is meant for good. We all have that goodness inside of ourselves. And to force anybody into this little box and say that's who you are, you're just this abusive person, there are too many layers to it. Just like our relationship was not just abusive, it was love, and then it was devastating. Like it's who you decide to be in that moment. So when people apologize, give them forgiveness, and then it's up to you if you want them in their life any longer. But in order to heal the world, heal your relationships, you have to be willing to forgive, because everyone's just trying to survive.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I've been going through that exact thing, and
Mm-hmm.
so I've been reading a book, and I don't know if I was reading it when we did the podcast. I know I don't, I'm pretty sure I wasn't, but Ed actually is the person who told me about it.
Oh,
And the name of it is The Wisdom of Andrew Carnegie, told by Napoleon Hill.
okay.
So Napoleon Hill, of course, wrote Think and Grow
Mm-hmm.
Rich.
Yes.
In that, I was reading a part yesterday in my morning routine that talked about holding on to resentment and holding on to anger, and how it prevents you from basically being the person that you really want to be, and that person that holds on to that is not going to go near as far as the person who can forgive it. I tell this story because on Thanksgiving there, my mother-in-law didn't show up, and it was arguably probably the worst Thanksgiving I've ever had, I think, at least sitting right here, right now, that's because it's so fresh. And so I was so upset. I was so mad. And I read that in the book yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And it was like, hey, dumbass, you have to forgive her because you're the only one suffering. She's not. She's okay. She's okay with what happened because she's cool with it. She has no idea how mad I am. And my wife, I told her about it, and she was like, yeah, of course. She was like, yeah, see, I told you, or whatever. And so she came over today, and it fired up those emotions again. And I had to check myself and realize that I have to forgive her because it is only hurting me by being upset with her. And at the same time, I am human, but I think maybe that was, I'm not sure what the hell the point in me telling you that was, but I think it correlates with what we're talking about.
It does. Yeah. No, I totally understand. Understand.
Yeah. So, you just got to do the next right thing, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whatever that looks like. So, all right.
I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yeah, me too, Nicole. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas or holiday, whatever
Christmas.
So this is, I have to say this really quick. That was the other thing. I get irritated when I hear people say happy holidays because I think it's Merry Christmas, right? But what I have to realize is that everyone doesn't have the same philosophy about Christmas as I do. There are people that celebrate it, but they celebrate it in their own way. And I can't be upset because people don't say Merry Christmas, because guess what? They're not all having Christmas day after tomorrow. They're having whatever their holiday is. And that's okay. But until this day, 41 years plus of my life, I didn't realize that until probably about an hour ago. And I'm like, oh.
Always learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Nicole, thank you so much. Have an awesome
Christmas. You.
And thank you again. If you have any other crazy stuff come up, please let me know.
I will definitely do that. Okay.
All right, dear. Thank you.
See you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.